There are a lot of famous titles in Tokyo Ghoul, but the one that just so happens to stick out above the rest is the Owl. With simply the name of the owl alone, fear, followed by a mixture of a lot of other complicated emotions, gives the single name known as the Owl strength. Case in point being, if you some way, somehow run into anyone known as the Owl, you might as well just run for your life. To start things off, we have Yoshimura, who is the head at Onteku, known as the Owl. I mean, it's only obvious that this would be the case, given his strength and his capabilities when it comes to taking on the CCG. One thing that everyone can quickly take notice to is how the Owl only ends up showing just one of its eyes. But to clear any sign of confusion, there are two titles, one known as the Owl and the other known as the One-Eyed King. Now, because Yoshimura shows off one of his eyes and is the Owl and just so happens to be absurdly strong, you may just think he is the One-Eyed King. And of course, there is a reason for that. But just to clear the plate, I'm going to say that Yoshimura is not the One-Eyed King, nor is he the Owl. Originally, Yoshimura would consume humans and also kill his fellow ghouls. Yoshimura would do all of this just to better himself and ultimately survive. In his youth, he would work as a cleaner and he would kill humans and ghouls alike and also rival gangs. With that being said, he would essentially be working for Tokyo Ghoul's counterpart of the Illuminati, which would be known as the secret organization V. What makes this very interesting is thinking about how this would have affected Yoshimura. To get straight to the point, he was literally a puppet on strings, all in order for these individuals to try and preserve and create a society that they wanted. Whether he knew it or not, Yoshimura was inevitably a means to an end, only to be used in order to reshape society for the personal gain of these individuals. To put it simply, Yoshimura was a weapon used in order to preserve the balance. He was really changing the world, and he did all of this all for the sake of his needs. Unfortunately, this had caused him to always, more often than not, be alone, until he would eventually meet his wife at a coffee shop. With time, he would start a family, and then have a child of his own that would inevitably be a half-human, half-ghoul. The V organization would catch wind of what he was doing and then order him to kill his own wife. Yoshimura would only do this so that he could preserve the life of his daughter from the organization. Now, what exactly makes everything that I just told you significant in the first place? What does this have to do with the Owl, and quite possibly the One-Eyed King? Well, you see, a one-eyed ghoul had become notorious at the time, and this same ghoul just so happened to be Yoshimura's daughter. And with her having one eye and being so powerful, it would be no wonder that some people would even go as far as to call her the One-Eyed King. And this would cause many rumors to transpire in Tokyo, which would have people think that the Owl and the One-Eyed King could quite possibly be the same, simply because they have one eye. This is what makes the identity of the One-Eyed King so mysterious, and explains its connection to the Owl. But the importance of the Owl having one eye runs deeper than that. The Owl has one eye because the Owl is supposed to be half human, half ghoul. But Yoshimura is not half human, he is a completely full-fledged ghoul. So why would people think of him as the One-Eyed Owl, and quite possibly the One-Eyed King? This is all because of his mask. He wears a mask that only shows one of his eyes. He does this for a reason, because he knows his daughter is the one-eyed owl that is terrorizing Tokyo. And knowing this, he would wear a mask that would only show one of his eyes so that he could protect his daughter from the V organization, so they would not know that she exists as the one-eyed owl attacking everyone. Yoshimura would essentially be a fake owl, while the real owl would be his daughter Edo. And as the owl, Edo would essentially reign chaos and kill anyone that is unlucky enough to run into her, while her father would end up pretending to be the owl, and unlike her, he would spare the lives of his victims and sometimes go as far as saving them. Long story short, Edo is the real owl while her father is the fake owl, and they sometimes get confused for being the one-eyed king because they both have one eye. But Yoshimura doesn't really have one eye, he just wears a mask so that you could think he has one eye. And interestingly enough, Edo just so happens to be the author of Kaneki's favorite books, and she is the founder of Aogiri Tree. But she is not its true leader. With that being said, there are also even more owls than we've come to realize, with Takizawa being one of them. Aogiri Tree would take 63 investigators and experiment on them in order to create their own owl, but whether or not he would serve the CCG or Aogiri Tree is a different story. Through gruesome torture, Takizawa was able to adapt and become more and more like a ghoul, which would allow his body to regenerate at an insane rate, and not only that, he would also no longer feel pain. Given the circumstances, he would also have to eat human flesh in order to survive, because his body would be that of a ghoul's, and without human flesh, he would eventually die. The experiments that were run on Takizawa would eventually take years off of his life, and he would be known as an experimental success, and in turn, he would be in his own league when it comes to strength. Takizawa is really just getting the short end of the stick when it comes to life. Unfortunately, he isn't the only one to draw the same stick. Amon would also happen to be another owl. But unlike Takizawa, he would not be considered an experimental success. In the beginning phases of experiments on Amon, he completely refused to eat the meat of other human beings. This got to a point where Dr. Kano took it upon himself to force feed Amon. Amon and Takizawa would simply be a room's length away from each other, yet they would undergo similar experiments and torture. It is really sad because between the two, Amon is the only one who really seems like he has any hope, while Takizawa has become someone that has nothing to lose. Amon can move forward and repent for everything that he's done, while Takizawa is simply stuck and has nowhere else to really go. And in a way, you could say nothing has really changed from now up until when they were humans working for the CCG. Takizawa and Amon really are just able to now see the perspective that they were lacking in terms of the CCG going against the ghouls. They began to firsthand experience the same discrimination that they used against ghouls while they were humans. And so they were able to see the world and how corrupt it is on both sides of the spectrum between ghouls and humans alike. Both of the owls were shown the reality and the gravity of all the situations that were around them, and they truly began to understand what it meant to be a ghoul investigator, even if it meant dying at the hand of your very allies.